What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video here on the channel. Now, I know it's like the middle of the night, but I was just thinking whenever I was driving back home, and I was like, all right, I want to make a video about this right now because I do actually think that I'm basically going to be pulling back on, I would say, all trades for what could possibly be the rest of the year. Now, I do want to give a little bit of a clarification. I'm not talking about spot buying. Spot buying is simply just dollar cost averaging or just buying into my long-term positions. I will continue to do that no matter what this market does. But in terms of actually leverage trading, I am going to probably be pulling back for the foreseeable future. And again, that could last the rest of the year, but obviously time will tell. Now, the primary reason as to why I'm going to be doing this and why I actually think it's a good idea for most people to kind of pull back right now is because this crypto market is in what I consider to be a macro reset. Now, a macro reset quite simply can just be defined as a period after a macro pump or pullback in which the market starts to cool down. Now, what that generally will look like, let me just draw this out for you a little bit and let's get rid of everything. Here we go. Let's do that. Let's get rid of those. Okay. So generally speaking, the market will do one of two things. It'll either pump and then it'll start to cool down, which could look something like this, or it'll dump, and then generally the cool down will look something like this. Now, these little periods in which we are cooling down or resetting after a macro move upwards or macro move downwards are some of the most dangerous levels to trade in my opinion. The reason why I say that is because they are the highest level of, or the highest periods of liquidation, meaning that they're the highest level in which you are, or highest period of time in which you're the most likely to get liquidated. And in addition to that, they're also the hardest to predict. You see, pullbacks like this can be very tricky. And even in moments in which it seems so obvious that something like this is going to continue to the downside, maybe you get a good piece of news that pumps you to the upside. Or maybe it's so obvious that you're going to reverse to the upside that you end up getting pushed towards the downside, and it's just very hard to predict. You see, as a trader, what oftentimes you should be attempting to do is to try to give yourself as much of an advantage as possible. And trying to trade in moments like these, knowing that they're very unpredictable and that there are high liquidations on both sides, you are diminishing your advantage. Because quite frankly, guys, I don't know if you're new here or not, but to be honest, when you're a trader in this market, you are trading against the system. You are trading against the whales. You are trading against what I call the lizard people. There are people out there, in my opinion, who pull strings. I've been in this market for 5 years and I've seen blatant signs of manipulation, and I'm not changing my mind about that. And so that means that if I'm a trader, I am battling the house. I am betting against the house, and you know how that goes. And so the only way that you can close that gap and really start having an advantage within this crypto market is trading with strategies and trading at times where the market does lean a little bit more slightly in your favor, so that over an extended period of time you can gradually generate return after return after return. And what I've come to recognize with that in mind, knowing that I'm trading against the house, is that if I trade in periods like this, I'm setting myself up to diminish my advantage. And there's no point in doing that, because oftentimes when we're in macro trends, whether they're upwards or whether they're downwards, they're very clear and they're very easy. What you should be doing is betting that it's going to continue to follow that trend and setting stop losses for the time in which it stops following that trend. And as long as you can just successfully do that over a good period of time, you're going to make so much money on the way up that once you do get it wrong and it does pull back a bit, your tiny little loss here when that stop loss goes off really isn't going to be very terrible at all. Sure, you might lose 10 or 15%, but at the end of the day, it's nothing really big considering the gains that you put in here. And so my general thesis, especially during a bull market, is what's the point of trading during a moment like this, where there are liquidations to the upside, when there are liquidations to the downside? What's the point? I mean, if we go over to CoinGlass, and this is something we actually talked about over in the Patreon this morning in our market overview, look at what's happening with the liquidations, right? If you look at the 7-day liquidation map for Bitcoin, there are billions of dollars of liquidations that will happen between now and if Bitcoin's price goes down to 94,000. But if you go to the 1-day charts, look how many more, there's nearly a billion liquidations that will happen if the market goes to the upside. So in the short-term time frames, there's a bunch of liquidations upwards. On the mid-term time frames, there's a bunch of liquidations downwards. And on the long-term time frames, there's way more liquidations to the downside. So quite frankly, who really knows what's going to happen? Nobody. And then another thing that you can mix in is the fact that Bitcoin is in a channel, right, an ascending channel that historically will break to the downside. Now, what's odd about that, though, is that Bitcoin is in an ascending channel again, which historically will break to the downside, but at the same time that it is in this channel, if we pull up something like our MACD, for example, you can go in and see what's happening here, which is, let's go out here, let's do that, and then let's go to the 1-day. You can see that it just got the bull cross. we just got a bullish cross here on this MACD. Now, it does look like we're going to get intertwinement, which means that we're going to see something like this. But quite frankly, it is just weird. And we're in a situation right now where no one truly knows what's going to happen. Is Bitcoin going to break out of this ascending channel to the upside, or is it going to get rejected back towards the downside? Are altcoins going to be able to break that golden Fibonacci zone, or are they going to get rejected by that golden Fibonacci zone? Nobody truly knows. And so in a moment like this, when there's liquidations all over the place, the market's in a macro cool down, and nobody really knows what the broad picture is going to look like for the rest of the year, the question that I have is, why would I be trading right now? The number one thing that I like to do in moments like this, when we're seeing liquidations like this, whenever we're seeing the crypto fear and greed index super greedy still, I mean, look at this, like, it's kind of insane. Crypto fear and greed index today is still sat at extreme greed, even in a time in which the market itself is showing deliberate signs of pulling back. When we see moments like this, the best thing that I can decide is, you know what, it's time for education. I'm going to dive back deep. I'm going to start watching more videos. I'm going to start exploring more indicators. I'm going to start trying to learn new strategies so that when the macro trend is facing in a certain direction, I can capitalize on that. I believe the next macro trend is going to be upwards. I don't think it matters at all how long this market pulls back or goes sideways. I think eventually we're going to see it pump again. So my entire strategy is, okay, what are some new ways that I can start implementing new strategies, indicators, tools, or resources into my trading strategy on going long, on going to the top? Are there better stop loss strategies? Are there better take profit strategies? Now is a time for education. Now isn't so much a time for, trying to force trades. One of the biggest things that I've seen from so many of the Patreon members is that they try to force trades. They lose a trade and then they're just pissed and they want to trade so bad and they're freaking they're just, what can I buy? What can I short? What can I long? Oh, I lost that long trade. Now let me short it. And you don't need to force it. You got to understand again that in these periods where we have macro trends, where we're in a macro upswing or a macro downswing, you can make so much money in that in periods like this, you can just sit back, wait and watch, go enjoy some family time, enjoy the holidays, do whatever you're going to do. Just educate yourself, learn some more. There's so much more you could be doing than trying to force some trade. So in my opinion, in a period like this, there's liquidation uncertainty, Bitcoin's in an ascending structure, but the MACD's crossing bullish and no one really knows what's going to happen. What I'm going to do, I'm going to sit back and watch. I might do some spot buying on some cryptos if they are in key purchase zones. So for example, I did purchase a little Pepe today, XLM and HBAR today, just because they're all in bullish structures and I wanted to add them to my long-term spot bags. But in terms of actual leverage trades, I don't really like it because eventually I will be able to be at much more of an advantage in this market. So I'd rather just not trade right now. And so because of that, that's my general thesis. That's kind of what I was thinking about tonight. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. And I will also remind you guys, there are a couple things that I do want to tell you about. First and foremost, don't forget, if you do want to trade on BTCC, you can use that link down below. And secondly, if you do want access to our Patreon server or our Discord server, there's so much going on in here, guys. I mean, it's more than I've ever seen before. There's Insights with Tyler. I told him about some of the purchases I'm making now. We have technical analysis that goes out live every day. We have deep dives that go out live every day. Premium classes on things like the Fibonacci's, the Bollinger Bands. There's so much more stuff. So if you do want access to that, it is as low as $5 a month. So feel free to head down to the links down below and do go check that out. But of course, I will be back to normal, posting some videos for you in the morning. I just wanted to share this with you today, kind of get your thoughts and opinions. So leave them down in the comments below. Let's have a quick little conversation there. And I can't wait to see you all in the morning. Peace out, everybody.